Bimini Road. Have you ever heard of Atlantis? In the middle of the 20th century, the soothsayer Edgar Cayce said that the remains of this mythical city would be discovered near Bimini in 1968-1969. And what do you think? In 1968, off the coast of Paradise Point, researchers discovered 700 meters of neatly stacked limestone blocks that are now called Bimini Road. Archaeologist David Zink claims that these are man-made megaliths. Gavin Menzies, author of 1421, the year China discovered America, believes that these are traces of the shipwreck of Chinese sailors, and other scientists say that these are just natural formations. So which one is right? Iron balls at the bottom of the ocean. The German research vessel Sonne, in the waters of the Atlantic, went in search of sea creatures between South America and Africa, but stumbled upon something completely different. At the bottom of the sea, they found dozens, hundreds, thousands of metal balls, each the size of a bowling ball. It was the largest deposit of manganese balls ever found in the Atlantic Ocean. Manganese balls, which often look like pancakes, can be found in every ocean, but the largest ones are usually found in the Pacific. These balls in the Atlantic were special. They were round, which is quite unusual. Scientists think that these balls formed over millions of years, expanding their size by 1 centimeter every million years. The largest of them, 10 million years old, lie at a depth of 5,500 meters. Round man-made object found at the bottom of the Sea of Galilee. In the depth of Lake Kinneret in Israel, a huge ball with a diameter of about 50 meters at an age of 4,000 years was discovered. Who, when, and why made it is still a mystery. Researchers from Tel Aviv University and Ariel University tirelessly tried to unravel this mystery. They even offered a fresh hypothesis that could possibly explain the origin of this mysterious object. After a detailed study using sonar and analysis of bottom sediments, scientists determined that this giant ball, made from large fragments of basalt, is located at a depth of about 12 meters. Previously, scientists believed that this could be the biblical well of Miriam, the sister of the prophet Moses, who helped the Jews survive in the desert. But now researchers are proposing an entirely new idea. Remember the legend of Akhet, the great hunter with the magical bow who was killed by a jealous goddess? This legend says that the father searched for the body of his son for a long time, found it, and buried it in the sea. Not in any sea, but in the Sea of Galilee. Now scientists want to understand what is hidden inside this giant wall. To do this, they are going to conduct underwater research using an ultrasound machine. Mysterious stone structure found underwater off Israel's coast. Imagine a powerful storm covers the Mediterranean coast of Israel, waves wash the shores, and then archaeologists discover a forgotten Neolithic village. Led by Ehud Galili of the University of Haifa and with the help of scientists from Australia's Flinders University, the researchers are opening a window into the past. The inhabitants of this village about 8,000 years ago tried to protect themselves from the advancing water by building a massive stone wall. At that time, the glaciers began to melt, the sea level rose, and the ancient villages, including Tel Roids, became victims of flooding. Millennia after the storm, scientists were able to examine the ruins. They found artifacts of the life of ancient people, dishes, tools for the production of olive oil, flint tips, and even the bones of domestic animals. In addition to all this, they found a giant stone wall made of stones weighing up to a ton. It was protection from water for the inhabitants of this village. But even such a wall was only a temporary solution. The waves got closer and closer to the houses, and people were forced to leave their habitual homes. Flooded cemetery found in Egypt. Heraklion is a huge port that arose on the coast of Egypt in the 8th century BC. The place was so popular with Greek merchants that they even built a cemetery here. The secrets of this cemetery were revealed thanks to modern methods of underwater archaeology. In the graves, archaeologists have found a huge number of artifacts, including fine Greek pottery. Near the port, they also discovered many sanctuaries built by the Greeks. But what is even more exciting is the discovery of an antique ship. It sank on one of the channels and hid under a 5-meter layer of clay and silt. Lost legendary temple of Hercules found off Spanish coast. On the southwestern coast of Iberian Peninsula, scientists from the University of Seville were able to find the ruins of the Temple of Hercules Cataton, lost many centuries ago. A majestic structure where people came to worship from the farthest corners of the ancient world. Can you imagine how an ancient mythological hero can become the hero of modern research? Because this is exactly what happened to Hercules, who in Phoenician mythology is known as Melkart, the god and patron of navigation and the city of Tyre. Thanks to LiDAR and digital modeling, scientists can study the underwater world in detail while remaining on land. Ricardo Ballassin, one of the researchers in the University of Seville, suggested that the remains of a majestic temple may be hidden at the mouth of the shallow channel Canio de Sancti Petri. Marble and bronze sculptures of Roman emperors have been found here, as well as figurines from the Phoenician period, many of which can be seen today in the Museum of Cadiz. Scientists were able to identify a rectangular area measuring 300 by 150 meters where the ruins of the temple itself may be hidden. Atlantis at the bottom of the Caribbean. June 5th, 8,500 years ago, time 1 p.m. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a mountain-sized asteroid crashes into the Earth. Boom! And its 5 billion tons heat the waters of the Atlantic to a boil. According to one scientist from Germany, this is how the death of Atlantis happened. A lost civilization which they say was flooded by waves of a giant shaft as high as Mount Everest. The crash site is now called the Bermuda Triangle. Previously, scientists thought that Atlantis was somewhere in the Caribbean, near the island of Bimini. They said that the Atlanteans were so smart that they even knew how to create crystals of fire for energy, but it seems that one of these crystals exploded and led to the death of civilization. Skeptics of course will say that all this is nonsense, but what about the numerous underwater finds such as strange pyramids and marble buildings? Ancient tunnels found near Murmansk. Hidden under the city of Murmansk in Russia is a whole system of ancient tunnels. In winter, the entrance to the tunnels turns into a crystal ice kingdom. Rumor has it that these catacombs stretch for tens of kilometers and the height of the ceilings in them reaches up to 12 meters. And what is interesting, they have been known for a long time. They are mentioned even in the texts of the 16th century. These tunnels, according to legend, belong to the ancient magical people of the Chakli. They knew all the secrets of the land and the extraction of valuable stones, helped the locals, and according to rumors, disappeared underground without accepting the new rules of life. Found the frequency at which people hear underwater as well as seals. Danish researchers believe that people whose ears were adapted to life on land in the course of evolution are still able to hear quite well underwater. Back in the 1950s, scientists were trying to figure out how our auditory perception works underwater. Even US Army doctors have studied the effects of underwater explosions on divers' hearing. Both humans and marine mammals took part in the new experiment, and Danish scientists found that the average human hearing threshold underwater is 71 decibels at a frequency of 500 Hz. This is 26 decibels lower than previous studies have shown. This confirmed that people hear much better underwater than previously thought, and our hearing can be compared with the hearing of such aquatic inhabitants as cormorants and seals. For example, seals and dolphins are able to hear underwater sounds that are not picked up by the human ear. Previously, scientists assumed that we hear underwater due to bone conduction of sound, but new results show that underwater sound is amplified primarily by resonance in the air chamber of the middle ear. Discovered evidence of a global catastrophe 12,800 years ago. Archaeologists have made an incredible discovery in northern Syria and at the bottom of Lake Acid. They found the remains of houses, tools, and even food that are about 12,800 years old. And that's not all. Next to the finds, the remains of meteorites and melted glass were found. Moreover, similar findings were made in other countries. But what is interesting, in the official history there is no mention of the large-scale bombardment of the Earth by meteorites. An analysis of these finds suggests that about 12,000 years ago, a huge number of meteorites hit the Earth, covering the Atlantic Ocean, Syria, India, and Antarctica. And all this time, the traces of this cosmic storm were hidden in the legends of different people and under the layer of Earth. Sunken and underground cities, tunnels, and traces of civilizations. These finds are scattered all over the world. What is this? Antediluvian settlements of our ancestors? Or did there exist an underwater super civilization? What technologies could we lose along with the underwater settlers? Everything points to the fact that in the near future, the world will again have to rewrite the history of mankind. Mysterious coffin. This archaeological find discovered in Japan will make our journey into the past even more exciting. Archaeologists have found a huge stone coffin in the ruins of the ancient Yoshinagari fortress. The length of this coffin is a whole 3.2 meters. This is 1.5 meters more than the usual tombs of that time. Inside the coffin is another one, a little smaller, about 2.3 meters long. The coffin is composed of 4 stone slabs, each of which looks very impressive. The coffin was found in Yoshinagari Fortress, which is located in the Japanese province of Saga on the island of Kyushu. At that time, the fortress was the largest settlement in Japan, surrounded by a deep moat. Other tombs have already been explored in the ruins of the fortress, but this coffin is the largest of all that are known to science. Scientists have determined that this giant tomb was built between the 2nd and 3rd centuries during the era of the Yamatai state. There are marks on the surface of the coffin, probably made with sharp metal tools. Some of them resemble the Japanese katana character. Probably these signs serve to protect the deceased from evil forces. Scientists believe that someone very important could be buried in the coffin. After all, ordinary people were not buried on top of the hill. This is evidenced by the huge size of the tomb. The coffin will be opened soon, and what scientists will find inside, we will find out in the following videos. In the meantime, you can write your guess in the comments. What might be hidden inside the giant coffin? Also, do not forget to subscribe to the channel to keep up with new finds of archaeologists, and I will continue. Unique wagon in Russia. Imagine a car made by hand from wood. Instead of wheels, massive wooden discs. Instead of a body, a lattice of intertwined twigs. It is curious, but such a wagon was found by archaeologists in the Rostov region. It was buried in the grave of a 50-year-old man who lived in the 23rd century BC. You'll probably ask, how could such an ancient wagon survive? Well, we're just lucky here. The coolest part of the wagon, the frame, that is, the running gear, has been preserved quite well. And you know what's interesting? The masters of those times very carefully selected wood for every detail. For example, the frame was made from maple and the wheels were made from oak. Super deep research even showed that all the trees were native. This means that the wagon was made right there. Our ancestors cut down trees in the forest that was nearby and used them to create their vehicles. The coolest thing about this story is that the ancient inhabitants of these places knew how to work with wood, weave from twigs, and all this with the help of simple bronze tools. So guys, the ancient nomads were not quite as savages as we could imagine. They skillfully used all available resources and created completely unique things. $30,000 luck. The main character of this story was Jason Jones, a treasure hunter who was lured by the dream of a great find. After 2 medieval silver coins were discovered earlier in this place, Jason and his wife decided to explore this land again, and they didn't fail. Here is what Jason himself says: "When I returned to the place where the coins were found, my metal detector gave out a powerful signal, and so, at a depth of only 5 centimeters, I found a strange bronze object. My wife was shocked by this find. Jason did not immediately understand what he had found, therefore he posted a photo of the find on the social media, and imagine, his new toy turned out to be a relic of the Vikings. Jason immediately informed the archaeologists about this so that they could study this unique item in detail. Historians have established that the item found was probably used to decorate Viking helmets. It is a stamp for creating patterns on a metal plate, which is then attached to the helmet. This process is called repousse, and it creates a light decorative motif. In this case, it was a protection for the cheeks or nose of a warrior. The found plate, 14 centimeters long, weighing 186 grams, is decorated with an exquisite relief pattern, which, according to experts, represents the mythological world tree Yggdrasil, at the roots of which the snake-like creature Nidhogg lives. Ancient funerary ossuaries. And now I will tell you about 3 stone urns which are already 1,850 years old. They were found near the Israeli city of Kafakana in the Galilee. Stone urns, also called ossuaries, were used in ancient times to store skeletal remains. This was traditional for the Jews of Judea and Galilee during the period of the Roman Empire, beginning around the 1st century BC. These urns were discovered in ancient burial caves, accidentally destroyed during construction work. Of the 3 urns, only fragments survived and they were all empty. Immediately, there was a suspicion of looting. Police have already launched an investigation and construction on the site has been halted. The destruction of the caves caused irreversible damage. Archaeologists are urging people to be vigilant and report suspicious activity in places where there may be archaeological sites. The researchers collected all the ossuaries found and carefully studied them, and that's what they found. Urns are made in the Greek style, which was typical for the Jewish population in the Roman period. And the most interesting thing, one of the urns depicts a round wreath with drilled holes. It is believed that this is a symbol of the victory of the deceased over death. What were the rewards for ancient Roman soldiers? Let's remember the Roman Empire and fast forward to Vindolanda, an ancient Roman camp in the north of England. There, amateur archaeologists made an amazing discovery: a silver medallion or phalaria depicting the head of the Gorgon Medusa. Vindolanda is not just a fort. This is a real open-air museum which attracts archaeologists from all over the world. Hundreds of people work here as volunteers every year. The excavations of Vindolanda reveal to us a picture of everyday life on the outskirts of the Roman Empire. The fort, which stands 1.5 kilometers from Hadrian's Wall, was built around 85 AD to protect against the Celtic tribes. The garrison included soldiers from territories conquered by Rome, including what today we call Belgium, Germany, and France. The fort was rebuilt many times. In its place, 9 layers of different fortresses were found, one on top of the other. Now the ruins of the 3rd century are visible: the fortress walls, the headquarters building, the commander's house, granaries, barracks, and even an outer settlement with shops and a bathhouse. It was in one of the barracks that a unique medallion with the image of the Gorgon Medusa was found. Despite its impressive age of 1,900 years, it is still perfectly preserved. Silk Imperial Decree. In Jiji County, Handan City, in the north of Hebei Province, archaeologists have discovered a unique 5-color silk imperial decree. Apparently, it dates back to the Qing dynasty, which means it is over 140 years old, and its dimensions are more than impressive: 2.22 meters long and 30 centimeters wide. But interestingly, this decree is written in 2 languages, Chinese and Manchu. Such a linguistic palette reflects the ethno-cultural diversity that prevailed during the Qing dynasty. The decree was originally issued to family members of a noble official from the time of the Guangxu Emperor. Such a document played a huge role in the transmission of imperial directives and maintaining order within the empire. The study of such a document provides scientists with incredible opportunities to study various aspects of the life of the Qing dynasty, its social culture, and etiquette. The Qing dynasty ruled over vast territories from the Manchu homeland in the northeast to the Tibetan plateau in the southwest. And this whole powerful empire was organized on the basis of a complex administrative system where Manchu and Chinese traditions were mixed. The influence of the Qing dynasty continues to be felt in modern Chinese culture and history. Filling the dead with plaster. Archaeologists have used state-of-the-art technology to shed light on one of the strangest Roman burial traditions involving filling the body of the deceased with plaster. Gypsum was poured directly into the coffin, enveloping the entire body. It turned out something like a 3D model of the deceased. These Roman plaster burials are found throughout Europe and North Africa. About 45 such burials have been discovered in Roman Britain. Scientists scanned 16 plaster burials from the Yorkshire Museum in the UK. The scan revealed a plaster coffin containing the remains of 2 adults and an infant who died together. And what do these 3D models give us? They detailed the shape, size, and position of each of the deceased, as well as how they were dressed possessed or wrapped. It turns out that 3D visualization is a huge help in studying ancient finds. So why did the Romans engage in such strange burial practices? Scientists suggest that this could be due to high social status. Regardless of the reasons, this unusual funerary practice has proved super useful for archaeologists. Plaster prints retain a ton of detail that is usually lost over time, including the clothes of the deceased. New Maya City. In the jungles of the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, scientists have discovered a stunning find, a forgotten city of the ancient Mayan civilization, which is over 1,000 years old. In the Balonco Reserve, a team of archaeologists found the city on 50 hectares of land. Imagine, it's like 70 football fields, and there are many buildings here, including 5-meter-high pyramids and even a ball field. They named the city Akomten, which means stone pillar in the Mayan language, and all because a lot of columns were found there. This city was an important site for the Maya about 1,000 years ago. Akomten was found thanks to aerial laser scanning. But the most interesting thing in this city is the Mayan sports scoreboard. At the archaeological site in Chichen Itza, they found a large stone circle where hieroglyphs were engraved, and next to it was an image of a football match. The Maya not only built pyramids, but were also fans of sports. Cemetery of ancient elephant relatives. We have new finds from the world of ancient animals that will definitely surprise you. Imagine ancient elephants. They're not just big, they're gigantic. Their teeth were so huge that they were called gomphotheres, which means things like swords. And it was they who became the heroes of our today's video. Representatives of the Florida Museum of Natural History made an amazing discovery at the Monbrook site. Where the river flowed millions of years ago, they found the fossilized remains of these giants. These huge animals have been dying here for centuries. According to Jonathan Block, the museum's curator, this is the find of the century. The Gomphotherium skeleton found is the most complete in Florida and one of the most complete in North America. Its age is about 5.5 million years. But the most amazing thing about this story is that scientists found several skeletons at once. Usually archaeologists find only fragments of the skeleton, but several complete skeletons have been found here, including the skeleton of an adult and 7 younger ones. According to scientists, these ancient elephants did not die at the same time. Most likely Gomphotheria got stuck in one place at different times. Perhaps it was some kind of cursed place where they were trapped, but these are just guesses. Who witnessed the extinction of dinosaurs? Imagine you're on a walk and you meet a dinosaur. Great thought, right? But today's story is just about that. Bear with me because scientists have discovered something incredible. Dinosaurs and human ancestors lived together on the same planet. This amazing story was told to us by scientists from the University of Bristol and the University of Fribourg. They studied mammalian fossils and concluded that our distant ancestors, placental mammals including primates, appeared before the dinosaurs disappeared. We always thought dinosaurs were extinct and then mammals came on the scene, including our ancestors, but scientists are challenging this idea. Imagine the picture, small primates, perhaps your great-great-great, well, you got the idea, running past huge dinosaurs. It's strange and funny to imagine such a thing, isn't it? Emily Carlisle, one of the authors of this study, said that they studied thousands of fossils and noticed interesting patterns in the emergence and extinction of different groups of animals. According to their estimates, early mammals evolved exactly at the time when dinosaurs still lived. In general, our ancestors could have witnessed an amazing event, the extinction of dinosaurs. And although we do not know exactly what they looked like, most likely they were small creatures from the order of primates. This truly amazing discovery is changing our understanding of our planet's past. Interstellar object. Imagine, hidden in the depth of the Pacific Ocean is a mystery that only a brave explorer can solve. No, this is not about the new Pirates of the Caribbean series. This is a real scientific story told by renowned Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb. Since 2017, he has been claiming that the asteroid Oumuamua that fell into the ocean is a crashed probe of an alien civilization. Can you guys imagine if this is true? Avi Loeb decided not to leave this hypothesis without testing and put together a research team. So what did they find? At the bottom of the ocean off the coast of Papua New Guinea, 50 iron balls, microscopic in size, were found, which usually remain from meteorites that burn up in the Earth's atmosphere. Loeb called them molten blobs from a fireball and argues that they have incredible strength and may come from a natural environment other than the solar system or an extraterrestrial technological civilization. Scientists examined these balls and found that they are stronger than any other space material that has ever been recorded by NASA. Their composition indicates a super strong iron unlike anything we know. This discovery could help future scientific expeditions find evidence of alien life with even greater accuracy. Loeb and his team hope to find even more evidence through Project Galileo. Next year's goal is to find a larger IM-1 artifact on the ocean floor. They may not find what they're looking for, but the scientist is sure that they will learn something new anyway. So stick with us, guys, and you will be aware of all the most amazing stories from the world of science and archaeology. Pickled Mommy. Researchers have found that the mummy, dubbed the Mysterious Lady, retained a small fetus for more than 2,000 years. Their discovery is based on CT scan data and was published in the journal Archaeological Science. The Mysterious Lady is not just a mummy, she was pregnant at the time of her death and was part of the Thebes community. Her age at death is estimated to be between 20 and 30 years old, and the fetus was between 26 and 30 weeks old. And this is the only known case of a pregnant mummy that has undergone the process of embalming. Surprisingly, until last summer, no one knew about the fetus in her womb. Previous X-ray studies did not detect it because its bones mineralized. Turns out that the Mysterious Lady didn't die in childbirth. Her body was treated with natron, a type of salt that dries out the body and acts as a disinfectant. And the fetus remained untouched by those who mummified the body, which allowed the womb to remain in perfect condition. Because of this, the researchers found that the blood in the fetus became more acidic as the levels of ammonia and formic acid increased, leading to bone mineralization. And since the womb remained hermetically sealed, the fetus kind of marinated, remaining there for more than 2,000 years. However, the question remains, why did the embalmers leave the fetus in the body when all other organs had been removed? Singing dance floor. In Peru, archaeologists have made an incredible discovery: a singing dance floor designed in such a way that when the pressure is applied to it, it makes a sound reminiscent of playing a drum. Kevin Lane, an archaeologist at the University of Buenos Aires, is certain that this unique dance floor was used for rituals in ancient times. Dancing, in his opinion, was a key part of the Andean rituals, and this platform served as a special amplifier station for the sounds of the dance. By the way, as part of this scene, there was also an honorary platform, or ushnu, a pyramidal structure that the Incas used for important ceremonies. When people stepped on this dance floor, it made thunderous sounds, as if inviting the god of thunder and lightning to join the celebration. To create this musical miracle, the architects conducted a series of experiments with different materials. In the end, they opted for clay and camel dung. Who would have thought that such an unusual material would be perfect for creating an amazing percussive sound? The platform could accommodate up to 26 dancers at the same time, and at this time the dance floor sounded throughout the district. This incredible outdoor dance floor was located 200 kilometers southeast of Peru's capital, Lima. Researchers suggest that it was created between 1000 and 1400 AD and was used until 1532. Ritual Cave of Ancient Necromancers. Researchers found ancient oil lamps, axes, and even human skulls 30 kilometers from Jerusalem in the Telmim cave in the Judean mountains. But the real magic and mysticism is yet to come. This cave was discovered back in 1873. Inside it, hide underground quarters, a source of water which is credited with special healing properties, and many artifacts. Researchers suggest that this cave was a secret hideout for necromancers. Necromancers are people who try to contact the souls of the dead using death magic. In the Roman Empire, their activities were banned, but they still continued their rites, hiding in such secluded places as the Telmim cave. The found objects were often used in magical rituals where people tried to contact the spirits of their ancestors through fire and metal. Lamps and other items were hidden in narrow cracks in the cave walls, suggesting that they were placed there on purpose. According to scientists, mystical rites, predictions of the future, and possibly even sacrifices were held in the cave. The cave was a kind of portal to the world of spirits. Oldest stomach stone. Ready for a shocking new discovery? This time, we traveled back 150 million years to study the oldest stomach stone ever found. This stone fist, about the size of your own fist, was found off the coast of Great Britain and dates back to the Jurassic period, 59 million years older than any previously known stomach stone. Now, as to who might have been the owner of this stone, it's quite difficult to determine without the surrounding skeletal structures. But Nigel Larkin, a paleontologist at the University of Reading, suggests that the stone could have been part of the digestive system of some large marine reptile, such as an ichthyosaur or a plesiosaur. It is worth noting that dinosaurs which lived more on land could hardly have been the owners of this stone, but despite this find is amazing and extremely rare. Stomach stones are nothing but natural mineral formations that can develop inside various organisms from human to ichthyosaurs. Such stones were even found in the stomachs of Egyptian mummies, but a much smaller size. This ancient stomach stone confirms that such formations existed not only among terrestrial, but also marine inhabitants of antiquity. A work of art at a flea market. It so happened in England that a young couple saw a small vase with a design of roosters and hens on a black ground of which birds soared. But it wasn't just a vase, there were engravings on its bottom which alerted buyers. After the purchase, they decided to investigate the issue further and to the auction house Canterbury Auction Galleries. Specialists took the vase for inspection, and you won't believe it. It turned out to be created at the end of the 19th century by the famous master of the golden age of Japanese animal, Namikawa Yasuyuki. The master worked in the complex cloisonné technique, which requires some special skill. The vase is now heading for auction where the starting price will be £10,000. The couple planned to spend some of the proceeds on a vacation and give some of the money back to the thrift store in the form of a donation. After all, it was there that they found this treasure. And just like that, just by going to a thrift store, the couple found not just a vase, but also a real masterpiece of art, which brought them not only aesthetic pleasure, but also an impressive amount of money. Ancient psychological weapons of war. And now let's dive into the world of the ancient Celts and learn about an incredible mystical musical instrument that was used as a psychological weapon. Here it is, the conix, a wind instrument that hit the nerves of enemies, lifting the spirits of the fighters during the battles between 300 BC and 280. This instrument was so impressive that it is even mentioned in ancient chronicles and was even depicted on a Buddhist sculpture in distant India. The conix was a long, curved bronze pipe, and at one end it had an ominous bull muzzle. The fighters blew this tune, the pipe of which ended with a bull's head with a moving tongue, creating an unimaginable noise, instilling fear in the enemies. Such a weapon could not go unnoticed, even Greek historians wrote about it. By the way, the very word Celtic is quite complicated. After all, the Celts were not a single nation but a number of different cultures united by common features of art and technology. In 2004, archaeologists discovered a treasure trove of weapons that contained as many as 7 conixes, and this is in France. The best preserved one was found in Scotland, but it only has a bell on a boar's head left. One of the 7 conixes found at Tintagnac could be assembled almost entirely from 40 pieces. When they restored this puzzle, it turned out that the length of the tool is about 1.5 meters. Spicy artifact. In the Khangai Mountains in northern Mongolia, archaeologists have discovered a real sensation, a stone decoration in the form of a human phallus. Yes, you heard it right. The small curved piece of graphite, 4.2 centimeters long, is the oldest known representation of a person taking into account gender characteristics. Believe it or not, its age is estimated to be between 42,400 and 41,900 years old, so it falls on the Upper Paleolithic. Such phallic pendants are something new in Paleolithic history. They say that early hunter-gatherers already used sexual characteristics as symbols. On the pendant, you can see the recesses, which according to scientists resemble the male genital organ. The most interesting thing is that the back of the pendant is smooth, while the front is not. It looks like the pendant was worn around the neck. The surface of the pendant is slightly worn, suggesting that it has been passed down from generation to generation. Proof of cannibalism. The next story will be somewhat creepy, but quite real. Let's dive into ancient history 1.45 million years ago and get ready to learn an amazing story about cannibalism among ancient people. Scientists have found traces on the ancient bone that look like someone has eaten a hominin's foot. And most surprisingly, the culprit apparently was not a wild animal, but a brother in mind. This is the oldest evidence of cannibalism. The bone was found in Kenya. It belonged to an unknown relative of a man who lived here in ancient times. Scientists from the Smithsonian Institution conducted a thorough analysis of this ancient crime using 3D technology. Although our ancestors were high on the food chain, they were sometimes preyed upon by other animals, but unfortunately, cases of cannibalism among them were not so rare. The researchers initially expected to find marks from the teeth of wild animals, but instead found clearly artificial cuts. Often such traces testified to ritual burials or the manufacture of jewelry from bones, but in this case, everything points to the fact that the bone was processed for food. It's still hard to say for sure. After all, the bones of ancient people could be processed for different purposes, and we may be mistaken in their interpretation. This find suggests that hominins could well have been cannibals as early as 1.45 million years ago. A little scary, right? But such is our history. Fragment of the most ancient book. Teresa Zamet Lupi, a restorer at the University of Graz, examined a papyrus dated to the 3rd century BC and found traces of binding on it. Just think, she was holding in her hands a page of a book that is over 2,000 years old. This unique fragment was discovered in 1902 next to the mummy, and this discovery could rewrite the entire history of books because it is 400 years older than the oldest books known to us. To date, the oldest books are believed to have been produced between 150 and 250 AD, and some can be seen in the British Library in London and the Chester Beatty Library in Dublin. Scientists are sure that similar relics may be hidden in other museums, but no one has yet discovered them. After all, papyrus was a fairly accessible material for writing, and it was used very actively. This stunning fragment, measuring about 15 by 25 centimeters, was found in the Egyptian necropolis of Hebe. It is part of a collection of 52 papyri, and now we have a unique opportunity to learn the story behind every symbol on these ancient pages. Mysterious Stone Age holes. In England, archaeologists have discovered up to 25 mysterious pits, the purpose of which is still a mystery. Imagine this: the English countryside of Bedfordshire, north of London, dotted with huge holes. Carbon dating of materials from this prehistoric site has shown that these round Osterwald pits were created around 7,700 to 8,500 years ago, during the Mesolithic or Middle Stone Age. This find, which is called Lindmere Pits, includes up to 25 pits, the diameter of which reaches 5 meters and a depth of 1.9 meters. They are arranged in straight lines up to 500 meters long. The most surprising thing is that such monumental structures are rare for Britain at that time. Basically, we know about the Mesolithic only from flint tools and rare remains of dead animals. Archaeologist Josh Pollard from the University of Southampton stressed that the Lindmere pits are surprising in their number and the large area they cover. These pits are placed where once there were streams of water. Scholars speculate that they may have had spiritual significance or even be used to mark important celestial events such as the solstice. Some of the pits contained animal remains, including the bones of an extinct species of oryx, an extinct species of bulls, and may have served as food storage. Similar pits were found near Stonehenge last year, but the question remains open: why were these pits created? Viking grave in the courtyard of the house. So, Oddbjorn Highland just wanted to expand his garden, but instead, he came across a real archaeological treasure. When he realized that he had found something unusual, he stopped all work and turned to professionals for help. The archaeologists who arrived at the site confirmed his assumptions. He found a sword made between the 800s and 900s. Interestingly, such weapons were only available to high-ranking Vikings. Ordinary Vikings made do with axes and spears, that is, farm weapons. Vikings used to bury their ancestors next to farms to show their claim to the land, so the place for burial apparently was not chosen by chance. Jewelry was also found in the grave, a brooch for a cloak, gilded glass beads, and a belt buckle. But who exactly was buried in this place, a man or a woman, archaeologists have still to find out. The work of archaeologists continues and they hope to find more answers. An interesting fact, the house where the discovery was made was built in 1740. In the 1970s, earthworks were already carried out there, but no ancient artifacts were found then. And how long has it been since you've been digging in your yard? What if ancient artifacts and jewels are hidden right under your feet and you don't even know about it? Oldest known species of Homo sapiens. Under the dome of the Moroccan sky in a place called Jabal Irhoud, archaeologists have made an amazing discovery. They have found the oldest remains of Homo sapiens known to us, namely our direct ancestors. It turns out that these remains and stone tools found nearby date back to between 350,000 and 280,000 years ago. That's a whole 100,000 years older than the oldest specimens of Homo sapiens we've known so far. Unidentified head. Heads from Lidenberg is a set of clay heads discovered in South Africa. They are dated 500 AD and are the oldest known examples of Iron Age art south of the equator. In 1957, as a 10-year-old boy, Ludwig von Bassing found these heads on his father's farm. A total of 7 heads were found. 2 of them are large enough to put in a child's head. The other 5 are half the size. They are all different, but each has something in common. For example, clay neck rings, which perhaps symbolize prosperity. Perhaps they were worn as masks during rituals, or they were attached to something during ceremonies. Child of Tongue. This is the story of a small child from Ton whose skull, found in 1924, was one of the first ancient human fossils in Africa. The uniqueness of the Ton child's skull lies in its structure. For the first time, scientists have seen evidence of vertical bipedal walking in ancient humans. It's all about the opening called the large foramen magnum, through which the spinal cord connects to the brain. And this child is located in front of the skull, which is typical for creatures that move on 2 legs, unlike monkeys, in which it is shifted back. We learned about the age of the Ton child through the study of teeth. The first molars were just beginning to erupt, which indicates that the child was very young. He was just over 3 years old. Scientists suggest that he was attacked by an eagle, which killed him. It's all about the unique marks found at the bottom of the baby's eye sockets. They are very similar to those left by eagle claws and beaks when they attack monkeys. This hypothesis is also pushed by the finds of eggshells found at the site and an unusual set of animal bones, mostly small ones, which often become the prey of modern birds of prey. Lost Golden City. Under a layer of sand that is thousands of years old, scientists have discovered an ancient city in Egypt. Under the guidance of the famous Egyptologist Zahi Hawass, the city was found near Luxor, where the Valley of the Kings is located. The city, known as Aten, is the largest ever discovered in Egypt. It is about 3,000 years old. It was founded during the reign of Amenhotep III and continued to be used under Tutankhamun and Ay. Scientists confidently declare that this is the second most important archaeological discovery after the tomb of Tutankhamun. Jewelry, colored pottery, amulets in the form of scarab beetles, and clay bricks with the seals of Amenhotep III were found here. Several districts have already been discovered at the excavation site, including a bakery with ovens and pottery storage, as well as administrative and residential quarters. Archaeologists are confident that this city will give us a new look at the life of the ancient Egyptians at a time when their empire was at the peak of its prosperity. Scientists hope that further excavations will bring even more amazing finds. Homonality. At the Rising Star Cave in South Africa in 2013, a team led by Lee Berger discovered the remains of more than 15 Homonality. This find is the largest collection of one type of ancient people found in Africa. Unexpectedly, another 133 Homonality specimens were found in the adjacent Lassetti room. belonging to at least 3 individuals, 2 adults and 1 child, and this was done in just one expedition. Interestingly, the teeth of Homonality differ from the teeth of other Homo species that lived in the same era, which may indicate a different lifestyle and environment. Unraveling the mystery of the Mummified Bishop. Today we have an unusual story from the 17th century. A small mummified fetus was found between the legs of the prominent Bishop Peter Winstrup. Bishop Winstrup was a prominent figure in the Lutheran Church, and after his death in 1679, he was buried in the crypt of the cathedral in Lund. Scientists have been trying for several years to understand who this baby is, and thanks to DNA analysis, they determined that he is most likely the grandson of a bishop. The boy was not fully developed, and the researchers suggest that his mother had a miscarriage in the 6 months of pregnancy. The bishop and the child share 25% of their genetic material, indicating second-order kinship. After analyzing the baby's DNA and Winstrup's family tree, scientists came to the conclusion that the boy is the son of the bishop's son. The grandson was buried along with his grandfather. This case once again underlines how unusual and fascinating it can be to study the past with the help of archaeology and genetics. After all, this is how we can restore stories that have gone untold for centuries. Australopithecus diarmida. Meet the new relative Lucy on our human family tree. Scientists led by Dr. Johannes Hale Selassie have discovered a new species of human ancestors, 3.5 million years old. These have very ancient and unique finds. After studying the jaws found in the Afar region in Ethiopia, scientists gave them a name, Australopithecus diarmida. It's interesting, but this ancestor lived at the same time as the Lucy we know. The species Lucy, or Australopithecus afarensis, existed from 2.9 to 3.8 million years ago, and its lifetime overlapped with the new species Australopithecus diarmida. Australopithecus diarmida differs from Lucy in the shape and size in its teeth and jaws, which tells us that they ate different foods. Scientists have long argued whether only one species of human ancestors could exist at one time between 3 and 4 million years ago, which then turned into another new species. But this new discovery changes everything. This discovery is essential for our understanding of the ecology of early human ancestors. Now we have new questions. How different human ancestors living at the same time and geographical area could use the common area and available resources? Pyramids of Meroe. Everyone knows the huge pyramids of Egypt, but Sudan has the largest collection of these amazing ancient structures. What a twist, huh? Sudan is often associated with civil wars and disease, but this country is a treasure trove for lovers of culture and history. At the top of the list are the Pyramids of Meroe. They were built in Nubia, one of the first civilizations of ancient Africa, and served as a place of eternal rest for the last pharaohs of the ancient city of Meroe. Over 200 pyramids located on 3 sites were built at royal graves for 40 kings and queens who ruled the kingdom of Nubia Kush for more than 1,000 years. This period is known as the Meroitic period. Unlike the pyramids of Giza, the pyramids of Meroe are built of granite and sandstone and are characterized by small bases and steep slopes. Many artifacts are found inside the tombs: ceramics, glass, quivers with arrows. Even despite the destruction, the pyramids retain their magic, especially at dawn and dusk. Bas-reliefs depicting scenes from ancient Egyptian mythology indicate a strong cultural influence. Alien sky blue stones. For billions of years, our planet has attracted many meteorites, and people have always collected their pieces. One of these is Skystone, or Heavenly Stone, discovered in 1990 by archaeologist Angelo Pittoni in Sierra Leone. Local legends say that these stones were creatures living in the heavens that God turned into stones and cast to earth for their sins. Pittoni sent the stone to laboratories in Rome, Germany, and Tokyo for analysis. The stone was 77% oxygen, 20% carbon and lime, with traces of silicon and other materials. The results of the analysis showed that the stone is different from any other stone on Earth and probably arrived here from 2,500 to 17,000 years ago. Oldest Stone Age tools. Stone tools found in Kenya, older than the grandmother of dinosaurs, 3 million years old. But scientists cannot understand who created these masterpieces. These artifacts are the first cooking tools, rather for cutting meat and crushing plants. Like ancient knives and blenders, it was a real breakthrough in history. The bones of antelopes and hippos were also found at the same excavations, and with obvious traces of these guns. And imagine, our ancestors ate raw meat. Maybe they even made something like the ancient Tata. These tools are so well made that they can compete with the fangs of a lion. And now the main plot twist. What if the tools were created not by our ancestors, but by other primates? The bones found nearby did not belong to Homo sapiens, but paranthropes, extinct primates. Perhaps the ancient apes were smarter than we thought. Mysterious Nubian stone tablets. In the necropolis of Saharas in northern Sudan, a huge collection of inscriptions in one of the oldest written languages of Africa, Meroitic, was discovered. This sandy area was once part of an ancient Nubia, famous for its gold mines. Nubia was home to some of Africa's earliest kingdoms, and some of them even ruled Egypt as pharaohs. Archaeologists believe that Saharas was a key site for trade routes leading directly to Egypt through desert roads. Most surprisingly, archaeologists have discovered the largest collections of tags in the Meroitic language. These inscriptions are commemorative and most likely dedicated to death. Many artifacts at Saharas were dedicated to high-ranking women. After all, in Nubia, a matriarchal society, following the family lineage through the female line was very important. The continent continues to amaze with new discoveries. It's scary to imagine what else awaits us ahead. I hope Africa is still full of such mysteries like in this video about the finds that forced scientists to rewrite history. 70,000-year-old bracelet. Scientists believe that this bracelet, 65–70,000 years old, was created by the Denisovans, an ancient species of hominids close but different from Homo sapiens and Neanderthals. If this is confirmed, the date of creation of the bracelet will have to be pushed back 30,000 years. The bracelet was discovered in Siberia, and perhaps it will change our understanding of the development of ancient men. It is already forcing scientists to reconsider known levels of technology. For example, a bracelet has a hole made by drilling and sewing. Ancient Maya artifacts. Archaeologists from Mexico recently went to the mysterious Chemuyal Cave. This is a dark, mysterious place where the secrets of the ancient Mayan civilization were hidden for centuries. According to legend, this cave was the entrance to the underworld where, according to the Maya, deities lived, so they often used the caves for their sacred ceremonies. Among the finds are 2 ancient vessels that were carefully placed in the niches of the cave. They were probably used to collect water flowing from stalactites. Such water was considered sacred. Another object, a bowl on a tripod, was found upside down and placed under stones. This indicates that it could be part of a ritual, a sacrificial offering to the gods. Saharas Eye. This geological structure was seen by astronauts in 1965, and from there its name came. From the air, it looks like a huge eye surrounded by green circles. This is a dolerite intrusion surrounded by stunted vegetation, a rare occurrence in the desert. The astronauts even used it as a reference point because it is the most visible structure in Sahara. In the center of the object are siliceous breccias, special varieties of sedimentary rocks. This indicates its antiquity, which scientists estimate at millions of years. The oldest ring is about 600 million years old. At first, they thought that this was the place where a meteorite fell, but this theory was not confirmed. Then scientists suggested that Galb al-Rishid has a geological origin. New research shows that this structure was formed under the influence of hydrothermal waters. One of the most unique features of the Eye of the Sahara is its ability to change color throughout the day depending on heat emission. And although there is still a lot of controversy and speculation about the origin of this geological miracle, most modern scientists believe that this is a result of erosion after the uplift of a section of the Earth's crust. Alien skulls. It all started when the locals were digging canals for irrigation and accidentally stumbled upon these amazing finds. At the site, which was named El Cementerio, the remains of 25 people were found. 17 of them were children from 5 months to 16 years old, and the remaining 30 skulls are so deformed that they simply amaze the imagination. As archaeologist Cristina Garcia Morana explains, this form of skulls is a consequence of an ancient tradition when children's hats were tied together with wooden planks. This was done in order to highlight their social group or status, but the exact reason for this unusual custom is still a mystery. Colgante Disc. An object called the Colgante Disc at the Rafael Larco Herrera Archaeological Museum in Lima, Peru's capital, may be evidence that people in ancient times knew what the arms of the galaxy looked like. This artifact, believed to have been created some 2,000 years ago, looks like a spiral galaxy. But here's the catch: the number of arms on this disc does not match the number of arms in our galaxy. Assuming that the disc does indeed represent a galaxy, this calls into question many things we thought we knew about ancient civilizations. However, the Colgante Disc remains a mysterious artifact that raises more questions than it answers. Tiny mummy in the Atacama. 20 years ago, in an abandoned mountain town in the Atacama Desert in Chile, the mummified remains of a humanoid just 15 centimeters in size were found. When this skeleton fell into the hands of a private collector in Spain, it sparked controversy about its origins and even appeared in a documentary as possible evidence of alien life. Scientists from California have been able to extract DNA from the bones of a mummy and reconstruct the real and tragic history of this creature, which received the name Ata. It turned out that this is not a guest from another world, but a girl who apparently was born dead or died immediately after birth, with terrifying mutations that determined her unusual physique. Despite the fact that she was only 15 centimeters long, some features of the bones indicated an age of 6 to 8 years. Instead of the usual 12 pair of ribs, Ata had only 10. The head was elongated and cone-shaped. Professor Harry Nolan, who conducted the study, believes that Ata was stillborn or died immediately after birth. Her deformities were so severe that she could not eat. In her condition, she would have been admitted to a neonatal intensive care unit, but such devices simply were not available at the site where her remains were found. It all started as a story about aliens, but in fact, it is a story about a human tragedy. A woman gave birth to a deformed child, which was preserved and sold as a strange artifact. In the end, this turned out to be a person with an amazing genetic history from which we can learn a lot that will help others. New species of prehistoric man in South Africa. Recently, a fantastic discovery was made. The fossils of an ancient human ancestor, Australopithecus sediba, who lived about 2 million years ago. Thanks to this find, the researchers were able to learn more about this amazing creature. It turns out that our distant ancestor walked the earth like a man, but at the same time, he could skillfully climb trees like a monkey. Among the fossils found were the lower bones of the back. Their shape indicates that Australopithecus spent a lot of time on legs, but also used his hands to climb trees. This important discovery helps us better understand how our ancestors lived and moved. The most amazing is that these bones were found in a cave in South Africa and belonged to a female Australopithecus, which scientists have nicknamed Issa. In Swahili, it means protector. Moreover, Australopithecus had 5 lumbar vertebrae, just like you and me. This find is like a missing link in the chain of human evolution, confirming that Australopithecus was like a bridge between the great apes and us modern humans. Their unique movement combined 2 types of activity: upright walking and climbing trees. Discovery of the oldest nuclear reactor in the world. It's funny, but the first human reactor that produces electricity was created only in 1951, but a stone block in Auckland, Gabon already created nuclear energy 2 billion years ago. The history of the discovery began in 1972 when French scientists took a sample of uranium ore from a deposit in Gabon to test its uranium composition. And here scientists have come across a surprising discovery. The uranium sample contained less uranium-235 than usual. This meant that about 200 kilograms of uranium-235 disappeared somewhere in the mine. As it turned out, the missing uranium went through the process of nuclear fission and split into other atoms. It turns out that nature accidentally created a nuclear reactor operating under very specific conditions necessary for the continuous release of energy. And it really happened. First, there was enough uranium-235 in the ore to keep the reaction going. Second, uranium-235 naturally decays, releasing a neutron that initiates the fission process. And finally, there was enough underground water at the site of the reactor, which slowed down the neutrons and regulated the reaction. Mysterious signs of an ancient culture. We will dive into the secrets of ancient symbols and signs, which, like mysterious fragments of ancient codes, help us to better understand our roots. You must have seen the pentagram, a five-pointed star, the symbol of magic and wisdom in the Hermetic tradition, and in Christianity, the five wounds of Christ. But a circle with a dot inside is not just a beautiful sketch, but a symbol of the sun, a sign of life and strength, which is found among the Egyptians and Incas. And the alchemists saw in it gold. The swastika also has ancient roots. Yes, it was a symbol of good luck and prosperity used in India, China, and Russia. And of course, let's not forget about simple geometric shapes: a square, a triangle, a circle. In Egyptian legends, the square personified the elements of the world. The triangle in Greek mathematics was a symbol of the Trinity, and the Chinese saw infinity and unity in the circle. Lolodov plate. The Lolodov plate is a stone dish that is about 12,000 years old. It depicts a disc resembling a UFO and a creature very similar to the modern idea of aliens. You can also consider a spiral galaxy. According to scholar David Gaiman, the disc was purchased from the city of Missouri in North India and belonged to the strange Zopus people who used such discs during religious ceremonies. However, he later admitted that he made this whole story up, including the creation of a sketch of the plate, which his friend then translated into black and white. Amazing artifacts constantly remind us that we still don't know much about the place where we live, but we know for sure that earthly riddles will sooner or later be solved. Pristine tomb. Just 30 kilometers from Cairo, archaeologists have found an ancient intact tomb which is already 4,400 years old. This amazing discovery was made in the famous Saqqara necropolis. The tomb was built for a high-ranking priest who served with the pharaoh of the 5th dynasty and his family. One can understand that his life was full. The walls depict people who make wine, play musical instruments, sail in boats, and hunt. The building of the tomb is amazing. Its interior is decorated with large painted statues and impressive inscriptions that reveal the names of the wife and mother of the priest. Archaeologists have already begun to explore the 5 burial shafts inside the tomb, and we have yet to learn much about ancient life in Egypt. Tunnel under the Sphinx. We set off in search of the lost library of the ages, the Hall of Records, which is believed to be hidden right under the Great Sphinx in Egypt. American psychic Edgar Cayce and other lovers of secrets are sure of its existence. The knowledge of astronomy, alchemy, medicine, and even magic is hidden in the labyrinth under the paws of the Sphinx in the mysterious Hall of Records. Researchers are still not sure if they are real or not. The secrets of the pharaohs, encoded in hieroglyphs in Teti's pyramid, indicate that knowledge did indeed pass from hand to hand. They were like funeral gifts. But where is the very library where all knowledge is stored? Edgar Cayce spoke during a trance about the Hall of Records, where the knowledge of ancient cultures is hidden. He claimed that the passage to the hall begins at the right front leg of the Sphinx, but it has not been possible to find it. Meteor finds in tombs. Even 2,000 years before the beginning of the Iron Age, the Egyptians had already learned how to weave meteoric iron. In ancient times, the sky was clear and our ancestors were guided by the stars and followed the falling meteorites. When meteors fell without burning up in the atmosphere, meteorites were obtained, space rocks. Scientists have confirmed that the 3 small beads found in the tomb were used in jewelry in 3200 BC and were made from iron that comes from meteorites. The ancient Egyptians pierced holes in it in the same way as they did with other precious stones. Then they created precious necklaces. Interestingly, meteorites were as valuable to them as precious stones and metals. Tomb of the Unknown Queen. The main sensational discovery is the tomb of the hitherto unknown Queen Neith, and 300 coffins and more than 100 mummies discovered. Previously, artifacts associated with the pharaoh Teti in the sarcophagus of the treasurer Ramesses II have already been found in this place. Saqqara is an ancient cemetery, where archaeologists have been digging for 2 years. Among the latest finds are the remains of Tutankhamun's likely generals and advisors, and even more amazingly, a pyramid dedicated to an ancient queen whose name has only just been recognized. Her name is Neith. Before that, her name was unknown, and the famous Egyptologist Zahi Hawass noted, "It's just incredible when you can literally rewrite history by adding new characters to it." The researchers discovered a whole system of 22 tunnels where people were buried in the New Kingdom, which had not previously been found in Saqqara. Each coffin is decorated with the face of the deceased and scenes from the Book of the Dead, and also contains the name of the deceased. Some coffins even have 2 lids, and the most amazing of the coffins is decorated with a gold mask of a woman. In addition, various artifacts were found in coffins and mines, including figurines, statues of the god Ptah Salka, and even a metal axe found in the hand of the military man. And of course, another pyramid dedicated to a previously unknown queen. The discovery of 16 hands. Recently, archaeologists discovered something shocking in the city of Avaris: 16 human hands buried in 4 pits near the palace. And you know what's the strangest thing? All of these hands are right, and they all belong to fairly large people. These hands are traces of an ancient custom described in Egyptian texts. The soldiers cut off the right hand of the enemy and exchanged it for gold. By cutting off the right hand, the soldiers not only made it easier to count the defeated enemies, but also symbolically took away their strength. Who these hands belong to is a mystery. It could be the hands of the Egyptians or those with whom they fought, the Hyksos. Such a cruel custom existed among the Hyksos and the Egyptians. Who started first, no one knows, but the cruel treatment of captives in ancient Egypt was quite common. Unfinished obelisk. Meet the giant, an unfinished obelisk, the largest the Egyptians have ever created. This obelisk could have been a mind-blowing 40 meters high and weighed over 1,000 tons had it not been for a discovered crack that prevented its completion. It was supposed to become a peer of the Lateran obelisk in Rome. The creation of the obelisk was a real feat of engineering. Workers made holes in the granite, inserted wooden wedges into them, and then filled them with water. Water inflated the wedges, separating the obelisk from the rock. Today, this place is an open-air museum where you can plunge into the world of ancient Egyptian kings and see the stone blocks from which the Great Pyramids of Giza and the majestic temples of Luxor and El Tahir el-Bahari were built. Hidden tunnel. Under the colossal temple dedicated to the god Osiris, a mysterious tunnel has been discovered that has been hidden for centuries. And here is where the fun begins. There are versions that this tunnel can lead to the long-lost tomb of Mark Antony and Cleopatra. The joint Dominican-Egyptian archaeological mission of the University of Sao Domingo discovered this 1,305-meter-long tunnel under the temple of Taposiris Magna Osiris in Alexandria. Excavation leader Dr. Kathleen Martins called the find an engineering marvel. According to her, the design of the tunnel is very similar to the design of the Efthalina tunnel in Greece, which was an aqueduct before it collapsed. Research has shown that this area of the Egyptian coast was hit by at least 23 earthquakes between 320 and 1303 AD, which caused the tunnel to collapse, archaeologists believe. Scientists have been exploring the ruins around Taposiris Magna for several years now. This tunnel may not lead to the long-lost tomb of Cleopatra, but who knows what else Taposiris Magna hides? Perhaps in the future, archaeological work will reveal this greatest mystery. Mercenary Commander's Tomb. We are going to the necropolis of Abusir, not far from Cairo. The tomb which we will study belongs to the beginning of the 5th century BC and is very unusual. It is a shaft-type tomb. Here is our main hero of today's video, Wahibra Marinate. This guy apparently was a commander of mercenary warriors and it seems died suddenly since his tomb was not fully completed. This amazing double sarcophagus found in the depth of this mine is directed from east to west. The outer sarcophagus is made of massive blocks of white limestone, while the inner sarcophagus is made of basalt covered with ancient spells from the Book of the Dead that help the deceased overcome the path to the other world. Unfortunately, the tomb was plundered in antiquity and all that archaeologists managed to find were 2 amulets, a hard scarab and a headrest for a mummy. According to the ideas of the ancient Egyptians, they helped the spirit of the deceased to maintain clarity of consciousness in another world. Interestingly, they also found some grave goods left after the robbery: faience figurines, incense vessels, and fragments of the Book of the Dead. So guys, it looks like Wahibra Merenith was a very important person. Tomb of Tutankhamun. Discovered in 1922 by Howard Carter, the Tomb of Tutankhamun surprised the entire planet with its luxurious artifacts and complex ritual architecture. The discovery changed the whole of archaeology and became part of the national identity of Egypt. What is so special about Tutankhamun, a young king who ruled for less than 10 years? The main thing is the circumstances of its discovery. His tomb was hidden under 150,000 tons of rocks in a rocky gorge called the Valley of the Kings. Many thought that all the tombs there had already been found and devastated, and Tutankhamun himself was a little-known pharaoh. But one inconspicuous place was a real surprise. It was there that the tomb of Tutankhamun was found. In the first room that archaeologists discovered, valuable items were placed somehow as if after urgent restoration. But even such a chaotic arrangement could not overshadow their splendor. "Amazing!" exclaimed the archaeologists looking there for the first time. "Strange animals, statues, and gold. There is a golden sparkle everywhere." Since its discovery, Tutankhamun has become a symbol of Egypt. Now more than 5,000 treasures from his tomb are the main display of the new Great Egyptian Museum. And although his reign was short, he became famous throughout the world thanks to the amazing and complete safety of his tomb. Even before the opening of the tomb, a seemingly unremarkable incident occurred to Carter. The thing is that during the excavations, Carter was accompanied by a pet, a small canary. And then one day a cobra climbed into the dwelling of a scientist and ate a bird. The archaeologist himself did not attach any importance to this, but his servants, who consisted of local residents, took this as a sign of impending disaster. The cobra is one of the symbols of the Egyptian pharaohs. Curse of Tutankhamun. The moment that launched the rumors about the curse of Tutankhamun was the death of Lord Carnarvon, the financier of the expedition, just 6 months after the opening of the tomb. This incident was the beginning of a chain of strange occurrences, including the suicide of archaeologist Hugh White, who left a note, "I surrender because of the curse." However, despite all these secrets and mysteries, the leading archaeologist Howard Carter and the daughter of Lord Carnarvon, Lady Evelyn, who was one of the first to cross the threshold of the tomb, lived a long and calm life. Therefore, it is still not known for sure whether the curse of Tutankhamun exists, or is it all just strange coincidences. Archaeologists put themselves in danger every day, discover new secrets, finds proof to scientists that it is possible to raise a question over their version of the universe. Mummified babies. Remember the famous pharaoh Tutankhamun? His tomb, discovered almost 100 years ago, still provides scientists with discoveries. In the tomb, along with Tutankhamun, were the mummies of 2 children. There were no DNA identification technologies then, so these findings were kept secret and the children were nicknamed 317A and 317B. In modern times, DNA analysis has shown that these 2 girls, who did not live to see their birth, were most likely the daughters of Tutankhamun. One of them lived for about 4 months and the second was almost full term. The researchers think that the girls were some kind of protectors of their father in other worlds. After all, the ancient Egyptians believed in life after death and took a lot of things with them to the tomb for protection on a journey to the afterlife. So the story of Tutankhamun and his daughters is another amazing chapter in the book of ancient Egypt. Lost City of Gold. Egyptologists expected to find the tomb of the famous pharaoh Tutankhamun, but instead, they discovered something incredible: an entire city lost in the sands of time. Unexpectedly for themselves, they unearthed the ancient capital founded by Tutankhamun's grandfather, Pharaoh Amenhotep III. The city was built of silt bricks and was a complex labyrinth. Clay wine jugs found in the city had hieroglyphs that told the story of its founder. It was Pharaoh Amenhotep III. In addition to bricks with the mark of the pharaoh, they also found amulets and even goldfish. Mummy with golden tongue. Exciting excavations in the northern part of Egypt have led to an amazing find. Archaeologists have discovered a mummy with a golden tongue. The unearthed treasure supposedly exists for about 2,000 years. Excavations took place in the ancient temple of Taposiris Magna, not far from Alexandria, where archaeologists found 16 barrels. However, they were not in the best condition. There were even 2 mummies wrapped in a gilded layer that appears to be made from layers of plastered papyrus or linen. One of the mummies had a crown adorned with a cobra and horns. And then we come across an amazing detail: the golden tongue. The thing is that in ancient times, the Egyptians believed that after death, their soul would meet with the god of the underworld, Osiris. The golden tongue was supposed to help the deceased communicate with him. Now, in the Cave necropolis, where excavations are ongoing, hundreds of ancient burials can be found that date back to different historical periods. In other burials, even pieces of gold items in the form of insects and lotuses were found, which were symbols of prosperity and wealth. Rosetta Stone. When the French were building a fort near the small town of Rosetta, they discovered a strange slab. It was the Rosetta Stone, a piece of a huge stele on which the text was carved in 3 languages. 3 identical inscriptions were carved on the stone, but in different languages. Scientists have been working on deciphering the text for a long time. First, they translated the Greek text, then the Demotic, but the hieroglyphs turned out to be the most difficult. Thanks to the efforts of Jean-François Champollion, who can be called the founder of Egyptology, the secret of hieroglyphs was revealed. Thanks to the stone, we know who built the pyramids, what gods the Egyptians worshipped, and how they made mummies. And this is just the beginning of the amazing story that the Rosetta Stone revealed to us. Silver Pharaoh. In the city of Tanis in Egypt in 1940, Pierre Monti opened the amazing tomb of Pharaoh Sosens I. The pharaoh was buried inside 3 tombs. The first 2, made of red and black granite, were reused, that is, they previously belonged to other pharaohs. The third coffin, in which the mummy of Sosenes lay, was made of silver, which is unusual for ancient Egypt because silver was more valuable and rare than gold. On the outer side of the red sarcophagus, there was an inscription saying that it belonged to Pharaoh Meneptah, a follower of Ramses II from the 19th dynasty. In addition to the silver coffin, many gold and silver jewelry inlaid with stones such as lapis lazuli, carnelian, and glass paste were found in the tomb. The most amazing thing is that Sosenes I, also known as the Silver Pharaoh, lived for about 80 years. At the time, this was a real miracle since very few could live to be even 40 years old. Mummy of Ramesses II. This story is about the mummy of Pharaoh Ramesses II, who moved from Egypt to France. He even had to get a passport for this. And you heard me right, in 1974, Pharaoh Ramesses II, even as a mummy, received a real passport. The Egyptian government was forced to issue it because, according to French law, valid travel documents are required to enter the country, and it doesn't matter if you're alive or a mummy. So, with the passport and the status of pharaoh deceased, Ramesses II set off on a journey to help preserve himself for future generations in a French laboratory. At the same time, he was met in Paris with military honors, as it should be when meeting a high-ranking official. Ramesses II was the 3rd pharaoh of the 19th dynasty of ancient Egypt in the 12th century and lived for an incredible 96 years. During this time, he managed to build a lot of temples and other structures, including the famous tomb of Ramesseum in Thebes and temples Abu Simbel. Ramesses II spent most of his posthumous existence in the Valley of the Kings, after which he had to be reburied in a tomb near Deir el-Bahri due to looting. In 1881, his body was moved to the Egyptian Museum of Cairo and then, as you already know, sent to France. Mummy of Amenhotep. Scientists were able to unwrap the mummy of King Amenhotep I, which is more than 3,500 years old, without removing a single layer of embalming linen. They were helped by advanced X-ray technologies and computed tomography. So, with the help of scanning, the researchers were able to see the face of the ancient king, found out his age, height, and state of health at the time of death. The generated 3D images show that Amenhotep I had an oval face with a narrow chin, a small nose, and slightly protruding upper teeth. Based on the analysis of the bones, scientists determined that he died at the age of about 35 years and was generally healthy. Interestingly, Amenhotep I's brain was not removed during the mummification process, which is unusual for pharaohs of the New Kingdom such as Tutankhamun and Ramesses II. He was also buried with 30 amulets and a belt with gold beads. The original tomb Amenhotep I has not been found, but his mummy was discovered in Luxor in 1881. By taking thousands of very thin tomography sections of the mummy and combining them, the scientists formed a complete 3D reproduction of the king's body. Valley of the Golden Mummies. The Valley of the Golden Mummies is located 400 kilometers from Cairo in the Bahariya Oasis. Here, archaeologists discovered 22 mummies covered with gold and decorated with gold coins and jugs. All these are gifts for the gods. Historians believe that this is the burial place of a prince who lived in the 6th century BC and his faithful servants who were sent to the next world with him. The uniqueness of this find is that since 1999, 200 mummies have already been found here, and each of them is a real work of art. And the most amazing thing is that archaeologists are not going to stop and suggest that there may be up to 10,000 mummies here. Secret tunnels under the Sphinx. A long time ago, photographs showed us mysterious passages penetrating the inside of the Sphinx, a giant statue on the Giza Plateau in Egypt. But official scientists hide these facts, and it is not easy to find a photo with a top view of the Sphinx. Imagine there are already 6 secret passages. One is on the back of a huge figure, the other is near the ground at the hip, the third is in the middle, the fourth is under the ear, the fifth is right in the center of the head, and the sixth is between the powerful paws. Zahi Hawass, the great curator of antiquities, even personally descended into one of these passages and found a chamber inside. But this is where things get interesting. Now, Zahi denies everything. He says that there are no passages in the Sphinx, it's all just cracks from old age. It seems to me that he's starting to cheat, and here's why. The famous sleeping prophet, Edgar Cayce, spoke of a secret hole between the paws of the Sphinx. Inside this hole is a treasure trove of the history of Atlantis. What if Zahi has been there and wants to keep this discovery for himself? Imagine how great it would be to know the whole history of Atlantis, all its secrets, collected in one place. Do you believe in this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Black sarcophagus. All over the world, the famous sarcophagus is spoken of as the find of the century, because inside the stone coffin everyone expected to see Alexander the Great. Many were afraid to open the sarcophagus because of the ancient curses associated with the story of the tomb of Tutankhamun when the expedition members began to die. But archaeologists are sure curses are just horror stories, and so the sarcophagus was opened. And inside, 3 skeletons. Apparently, they were warriors because one of them has a fractured skull, but there are no golden masks, no jewels, meaning this is not Alexander the Great. Now these mysterious skeletons are in the Alexandria Museum for further study, and we continue to believe that one day the sarcophagus of Alexander the Great will still be found. It seems science recognizes that there are still many unsolved mysteries associated with the pyramids and their keepers. Great minds are struggling with the most complex mysteries of the past, but it seems that the ancestors have safely hidden their biggest secrets. Secrets that you will see on this channel. Who owns this hand? Today we will go back in time and plunge into the mysterious world of the ancient Romans. Our starting point will be Fort Vindolanda, one of the first Roman military camps in what is now England. For many centuries, 9 fortifications were built here. In 2018, an amazing discovery was made here. The researchers found a bronze hand the size of a child's. But it's not just a hand. On its palm was a place for something that unfortunately has not survived to this day. And yet, at the base of the hand, there is a hole as if it was attached to something. The mystery becomes even more interesting because the hand was found near the temple of Jupiter Dolichon. Most likely, the hand was part of some religious ritual. Similar finds were made in other temples of this god. Now you can see this hand in the Vindolanda Museum. This is a vivid reminder that temple life and the practices associated with the worship of Dolichon were much richer than people previously thought. And the most interesting thing is that all knowledge about the cult of Jupiter Dolichon is based on rare inscriptions, sculptures, and other examples of art found in different parts of the former Roman Empire. So every new discovery is a step towards unraveling this ancient mystery. What do you think? Could this hand be used for some mystical purpose? Write your opinion in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so as not to miss a new video. And I will continue. Ancient artifact weighing 3 tons. A farmer from the Spanish town of Bana, uprooting an olive tree, stumbled upon a huge stone object. The photo posted by the local city hall shows that it looks like a large round stone with 3 grooves on the sides. It turned out to be an ancient Roman millstone, a special device for squeezing olives and extracting olive oil. This device is called the trapetum. It was invented back in Greece and then used throughout the Roman Empire. The trapetum works like this. The workers crushed the olives with the help of the second part, which fit perfectly into the round recess, and rotated with the help of a long stick. Stone mill with a height of about 90 centimeters and a diameter of 1.2 meters weighs as much as 3 tons. Archaeologist Jose Antonio Morena estimated the age of the millstone at 2,000 years, and he suggested that this monumental artifact proves that olives were grown in Bana back in the days of ancient Rome. Today, Bana is also known for its olive oil. Olive groves surround the entire city, and local history is reflected in the Museum of Olive Groves and Oil. So this stone millstone will soon move to the Historical Museum of the city. Skeletons in unusual graves. In the Negev Desert in southern Israel, archaeologists have discovered burials that are about 2,500 years old. Can you imagine? And inside them are as many as 50 skeletons which, according to researchers, may belong to women sold into slavery. The most interesting thing about these finds is the shape of the tombs. So far, we are used to seeing round-shaped burials in the Negev Desert, but these 2 tombs are unique and have square dimensions. Plus, they are located in a very unusual place, at the crossroads of 2 trade routes that once connected Egypt, Jordan, and the Arabian Peninsula. Scientists know that such burials at crossroads are not as surprising as they may seem. After all, people dying in the harsh conditions of the desert from disease or violence often remain buried exactly where they died. However, in ancient times, such crossroads were considered sacred places with ritual and religious significance. Now about the most important thing. During the excavations, many artifacts were found dating back to about 7th–5th century BC. All of them are produced in different places: the southern Levant, the southern Arabian Peninsula, and of course Egypt. This, as well as amulets found in the tombs, support the assumption that women who were sold into slavery and transported from Egypt were buried here, but this is yet to be confirmed. Rock shelter in Oregon. Imagine you find an animal's tooth. Old tooth, very old, 18,000 years old. It is such a unique foundation of the remains of the past that archaeologists found in a stone shelter in Oregon, USA. If our skull history has not changed, then this is one of the most ancient places where people lived in North America. This shelter, called Rimrock Drow, has been excavated by archaeologists since 2011. Here they found a lot of stone tools and pieces of teeth of ancient animals that died out during the last ice age. Among the finds, fragments of camel teeth found under a layer of volcanic ash from the eruption of Mount St. Helens are especially memorable. This eruption is believed to have happened over 15,000 years ago, And the most interesting is, they found 2 scrapers made of orange agate, one of which was covered with bison's blood. Now scientists have proven that the camel's tooth dates back to 8,250 years BC. The question of the first people in North America is a whole detective story in archaeology. It used to be thought that the representatives of the Clovis culture were the first here about 15,000, 13,000 years ago. But now this date is constantly being pushed back and scientists have not yet reached agreement. And finally, a little advice from archaeologists. If you stumble upon something interesting, don't touch it. This can derail the hard work of researchers. Bronze Age rock paintings. While hiking with his family in the vicinity of Moss, south of Oslo, Tormod Fjeld noticed a pattern on a rock that any passerby might miss. Using an app on his phone, he was able to distinguish between natural and artificial colors on the rock and saw an image of a boat with rowers, as well as animals and people. Experts confirmed the uniqueness of his discovery. This is most likely the first Bronze Age painting in this region of Norway. Tormod is always looking for such pictures. His first find is a petroglyph discovered in 2016 while walking his dog. He didn't know what those strange signs meant, but he wanted to know more. So Tormod began a joint search with archaeologists Magnus Tengen and Lars Ole Kleivstad, an architect and artist who is also passionate about petroglyphs. Together they spent many nights in all weathers examining these ancient signs. This kind of research requires passion and dedication. Like magicians, they prefer to explore at dusk or dawn when the tilted light brings ancient ruins to life. There is even a theory that ancient people used fire to create the effect of movement in petroglyphs. Ancient gates to the underworld. How about a trip to Mexico, where archaeologists have recently discovered an ancient underground temple with a door to the afterlife? Sounds mystical, doesn't it? The story began back in 1674 when the priest Francisco de Bergoa described in his notes a gigantic underground temple in the city of Metla. Judging by his words, the temple consisted of 4 holes, one of which had a stone door leading to a deep cave. And this, guys, was not just some kind of room, it was a place that, according to the beliefs of the ancient Zapotec people, led to the afterlife, called Liaba, or resting place. But what happened next? Apparently, the entrance to this cave was walled up by the Spaniards and the temple was destroyed. Now on this side stands the Church of San Pablo, built right on the ruins of an ancient temple. Thanks to advanced research methods such as ground-penetrating radar, electric tomography, and seismic noise tomography, archaeologists have discovered a large void under the church that appears to be connected to another void to the north. The researchers also found 2 underground passages leading into this void from the east. Moreover, they even managed to find the location of the blocked entrance to the ancient cave. It seems that this story is just beginning, and we have a lot to learn about the ancient Zapotecs and their beliefs. So subscribe to our channel if you don't want to miss the continuation of this fascinating study. The wealth of the ancient elite. In the city of Larnaca in Cyprus is Hala Sultan Tekke, the place where the aunt of the Prophet Muhammad Haram is said to have rested. But this city has another unique story that goes back 3,300 years before us. In ancient times, this town was a picturesque trading station where the world-famous copper reserves were disposed of. Due to its success in copper mining, the city attracted many of the elite of that time, as evidenced by the recent discovery of royal tombs. These tombs turn out to be a hoard of historical treasures containing more than 500 high-quality funerary items. Thanks to the diligence of local farmers who stumble upon ancient pottery fragments, archaeologists unearthed these stunning finds using state-of-the-art earth scanning equipment. Inside these tombs, deep underground, explorers unearthed an amazing collection of objects adorned with gold, precious stones, and ivory. Among the finds were the stunning remains of a woman surrounded by ceramic vessels and bronze mirror, and next to her was a 1-year-old child with a ceramic toy. Analysis showed that gold and ivory came from Egypt, while blue lapis lazuli and turquoise came from Afghanistan, India, and Sinai. Pottery was brought from Greece, Turkey, Syria, Palestine, and Egypt. It is not surprising that the elite of that time could afford such a luxury. After all, copper, which they mined and sold to neighboring cultures, was the most important resource because bronze was made from it and tin. What a 16-year-old girl from the 7th century looked like. We'll go back 13 centuries to meet a mysterious girl who may have been from the royal family and one of the first Christians in England. Think back to the year 2012. An amazing archaeological find has been discovered on the outskirts of Cambridge, UK. Archaeologists have found the remains of a 16-year-old girl buried in earth from the 7th century. Scientists have recreated her face using 3D modeling technology based on the girl's skull, and while they're not sure about the eye and hair color without DNA analysis, the model gives us an idea of what our girl looked like. She had a special feature: her left eye was slightly lower than the right, which was noticeable when meeting her. Although she was found in Great Britain, she comes from Central Europe, most likely from southern Germany. The secret of her death remains a mystery, but signs of illness indicate that she was battling some kind of ailment. Our girl was buried in the style of a royal person, on a carved wooden bed with a gold and garnet cross, surrounded by jewelry and beautiful clothes. It seems that she was from the aristocracy or even the royal family, and most surprisingly was a Christian, which at that time was a rarity in England. Largest ancient axe. Today we have some really big news from Kent, Britain. Researchers at the University of California have discovered stone tools that are over 300,000 years old. Just imagine, these artifacts were made back in the era of cavemen. Among the 800 stone artifacts found in the deep deposits of the Ice Age, there are 2 huge flint axes, one of which is more than 29 centimeters long. This, guys, is an absolute record for Britain. The researchers suggest that these huge tools were used for butchering meat, but according to archaeologists, the axes are so large that it's hard to imagine how they could be held and used. Perhaps they had a rather symbolic function, demonstrating the skill and strength of the owner. But for now, these are all assumptions, and researchers continue to work on studying these artifacts. Legionnaires' helmet in good condition. We are opening a portal to ancient Rome right in Russia in the Krasnodar territory. Archaeologists have made an amazing discovery near the village of Zaria, a bronze helmet from Roman times. Imagine, this helmet, once shiny and new, was worn on the head of a formidable rider. And it was not found just like that. It was buried along with its brave rider and their faithful horses. This was discovered during excavations of an ancient burial ground. The peculiarity of this helmet is the absence of a metal bracket on the frontal part, which could usually be removed while wearing. Maybe it was some kind of ritual, or maybe just part of the fashion of that time. But what is really surprising is that the helmet, a Roman legionnaire or a local imitation of a Roman prototype. Its shape is reminiscent of Haguenau-type helmets from the 1st century BC. This opens a new page in history for us during the Roman Bosporus War between Mithridates of Bosporus and his brother Cotys, the events of which are still shrouded in mystery. One Roman legionary helmet has already been discovered in the Sochi region, but our example has excellently preserved cheek pads with movable hinges. After processing, this artifact will be sent to the museum for everyone to see. Griffins from the pharmacy. And now let's move on to the depth of mystical St. Petersburg, Russia, where the walls of old houses are literally saturated with the spirit of the past. And our characters today are an incredibly intriguing Russian chemist and his griffins. Alexander Pal is a scientist, brilliant chemist, teacher, and publisher of his own journal. He opened and owned one of the oldest pharmacies in St. Petersburg, invented a unique way to store medicines in glass ampoules, and even developed his own medicine. However, it is his alchemical experiments that are at the center of our attention today. Imagine, the famous chemist, using his powerful scientific and technical base, not only works on solving important medical problems, but also is looking for the Philosopher's Stone. Or rather, as they say, he found it. But that is not all. In the courtyard of Pal's pharmacy on Vasilyevsky Island, there was his laboratory where, according to city rumors, the chemist brought out griffins. Yes, those same creatures from myth and legends. At night, they allegedly left their tower, now known as the Griffin Tower, and fluttered around the area, frightening the locals. In the 90s, mysterious numbers began to appear on the tower, which mysticism lovers immediately declared the formula of happiness derived by Pal himself. In fact, it was an art project of one St. Petersburg artist, but these figures continue to be updated to this day. So, fans of history and mysteries, if you're lucky enough to visit St. Petersburg, be sure to check out the museum located in this tower. Who knows, maybe you will be lucky and you will be able to see the shadows of griffins or their reflections in the windows of neighboring houses. Or maybe you will even be able to decipher the very formula of happiness. After all, as they say, until proven otherwise, griffins exist. exist. Perhaps they're just waiting in the wings to give each of us a piece of happiness. Solar Mini Watch. Near the castle in Marburg, Germany, students have discovered a real treasure, a pocket sundial made of wood and bronze during the Middle Ages. This is an amazing find that is of great interest among archaeologists. This matchbox-sized device may have belonged to monks from the Brotherhood of Common Life, a Catholic order that lived in the area until 1527. Today, the site is home to the University of Marburg, Germany's first Protestant university. Students of this university discovered this amazing watch during a summer study excavation. The head of the excavation, Professor Felix Teichner, called this find sensational. People in the past needed to combine knowledge of astronomy and mathematics with the skill of artisans to create such an amazing device. This academic year was especially important for Marburg as the city celebrated its 800th anniversary. Maternity Hospital for Aliens. In 2000, when archaeologists led by Frank Gaudieu were searching for the treasures of Napoleon's ships, they suddenly encountered something completely unexpected. They found the mysterious city of Heracleion, which disappeared under the waters of the Mediterranean Sea. Heracleion was a brilliant trading center until in the 4th century BC, Alexander the Great did not build Alexandria. The city was built in honor of the Egyptian god Ra, while the Greeks believed that it was founded in honor of the demigod Hercules. At first it seemed that there is nothing supernatural. The ruins of the city sliding into the sea, the statues of pharaohs, the ruins of temples, but while exploring an ancient temple, divers discovered bas-reliefs depicting women in luxurious clothes holding small humanoids. These babies were thin, with thin arms and legs, elongated heads, and huge almond-shaped eyes. Questions immediately arise. Women cure aliens? Or are they images of household gods? Or what if this is proof that aliens were experimenting in ancient Egypt to create human-alien hybrids? Maybe Hercules, who was considered a demigod, was actually the son of an alien from heaven and an earthly woman, a hybrid of a man and an alien. These questions remain unanswered, but one thing we know for sure: history is full of unexpected discoveries, and each of them opens up new horizons and opportunities for research. Write in the comments below the video what do you think about this? What strange images have survived to this day? Are historians really trying to hide valuable information from us? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Ruins of Theatre of Nero. Archaeologists in Rome have unearthed the ruins of a theater where they believe Emperor Nero himself, known for his cruelty and ambition, performed. Let me remind you that he even ordered to kill his mother and set fire to the first Christians. This theater is mentioned in the texts of such connoisseurs of history as Pliny the Elder, Suetonius, and Tacitus. The ruins were found right under the garden of the alleged Four Seasons Hotel, literally a stone's throw from the Vatican. Archaeologists work in the gardens of the Palazzo della Rovere, a beautiful old palace now owned by the Order of the Holy Sepulchre. By the way, the hotel should open in 2025, just in time for the anniversary of the Vatican. It is planned that 30 million people will come to Rome. Archaeologists called the results of the excavations exceptional. They found colored glass bowls and pottery from the 10th century, as well as marble columns and gold-plated elements. This all helped them to conclude that the majestic theater of Nero was indeed here, next to the Tiber River. Faces on Mars. An amazing trip to the red planet Mars awaits us. In 1976, the Viking 1 probe, circling Mars, took a picture of a pile of rocks that look a lot like a human face. NASA has labeled it an enormous rock formation that resembles a human head. At that time, some people thought that this face was the remnant of an alien civilization and the neighboring stones were the ruins of their city. Of course, NASA scientists quickly concluded that the face was just a play of light and shadow, but the idea has spread through culture, appearing in books, movies, and TV shows. The face on Mars is located in a region known as the Cydonia region, between the planet's southern highlands and the smoother northern plains. Some scientists think that this area was once close to the vast Martian ocean, when the planet had enough atmosphere easier to keep water on the surface. Later, in 1998, NASA's Mars Global Surveyor probe took more detailed pictures of the face. All subsequent high-quality images confirmed the initial analysis. The assumption of a face is an optical illusion due to a specific angle of incidence of light on the surface of the rocks. The illusion rock itself, about a mile across, resembles the cliffs or mesas of the western United States and is likely formed from a combination of landslides and accumulated debris. And while the face on Mars is one of the most popular sites, it's far from the only group of rocks resembling terrestrial features. Viking captured several other fascinating images, including Gold Crater in the Southern Highlands, which is shaped like a smiling face. Such structures, of course, do not indicate the presence of alien life. On Earth, too, formations can be found, such as New Hampshire's Old Man of the Mountain, which create aesthetically pleasing images without alien interference. On the other hand, right now in the United States, they are declaring that they have real evidence of alien life, and at the moment they confirm their words with an oath on the Bible, promising to show alien transport and biomaterial. Ancient Glass Workshop. In the Czech Republic, in the village of Nemčice, researchers have found treasures of truly royal proportions, thousands of gold underwater huts, and even glass jewelry. And the most interesting, in Nemčice, it seems that there was the oldest glass workshop in the north of the Alps. Archaeologists have not found tools for making glass, but they have found many glass products of varying degrees of completion. This important discovery confirms the existence of an ancient glass workshop in Nemčice. They also found several more amber items, as well as a building similar to those used for ritual purposes in Nemčice. The finds show that this place was not just a workshop, but also an important place for rituals. Plus, over the past 20 years, 2,000 gold and silver coins have been found here, which strengthens the belief that Nemčice was an important stop on the Amber Road in the 3rd-2nd centuries BC, connecting settlements near the northern, Baltic, and Mediterranean seas. Ship loaded with Roman glass. At the bottom of the sea between the islands of Capri and Corsica, archaeologists have discovered a sunken Roman ship. But this is no ordinary ship. It plunged into the depths with tons of glass on board, both already processed and raw. Chic glass plates, bottles, bowls, and even cosmetic jars are now lying on the seafloor, and this is only the second such discovery in history. The ship supposedly set out on its last voyage in the late 1st or early 2nd century AD. Fragments of it were found back in 2012 at a depth of 350 meters, but research began only after France and Italy decided to join forces. With the help of the underwater robot Arthur, which can explore depth up to 2,500 meters, shoot high-definition video, and even bring the finds to the surface, the researchers plan to study the ship and its contents thoroughly. During the first week of this month, Arthur discovered many glass objects, as well as 2 large bronze basins and several amphorae. The analysis of these artifacts will allow scientists to clarify the dating of the shipwreck and get a more accurate picture of its route. The ship appears to have departed from a port in the Middle East, possibly Lebanon or Syria, bound for the French coast of Provence. All found items will be delivered to the laboratory for a more detailed study. Burial of ancient people. Homonality is a unique species of human that lived in South Africa about 300,000 years ago. With a brain 1/3 the size of ours, but as it turned out, they were already perpetuating the memory of their dad. A skeleton of Homonality was discovered in a cave with the mysterious name Rising Star. This is the first evidence that these human ancestors practiced burials and developed a symbolic culture. Though their brains were smaller than ours and their paws more adapted to branching trees, Homonality like us could move upright, made working tools, and are now known to have practiced funeral rituals. Rising Star is not just a cave, it is a whole treasure trove of history where the remains of more than 15 Homonality of different sexes and ages have already been discovered. But our hero today is a separate skeleton found under a layer of clay, which according to scientists indicates that the body was deliberately buried. This discovery forces us to rethink our understanding of cultural and social development. It turns out that even before the appearance of Homo sapiens, there were people on Earth who respected the dead and left mysterious symbols on the stone. The evolution of mankind was much more complex and exciting than we could imagine. The oldest spider in Germany. Meet Archaeological Walterbicki. This baby lived here approximately 310–315 million years ago, when northern Germany was still at the equator and was covered with tropical forests. The spider belongs to the ancient glider spinning group, which are found today only in East Asia. Did you know that spiders weren't always as common as they are today? Scientists believe that in tropical forests 300 million years ago they were extremely rare, and this makes the remains of spiders from this time even more unique. So far, only 11 species have been known that can be definitely identified as spiders. Meet the 12th. Fossilized remains of Australopithecus walterbicki were found in the Peaceberg Quarry near Osnabrück. This find breaks the record because the age of this fossil, 315 million years old, makes Australopithecus the oldest spider in Germany. Researcher Jason Dunlop notes that the fossil is well preserved with even silkworm glands visible as well as hair and claws on the legs. This indicates that Australopithecus is a real spider and not just a spider-like creature. This ancient spider spent most of its life in a burrow surrounded by webs that served as signal lines to warn the spider of incoming prey. 50 Roman tweezers. Did you know who was the main culprit in the fashion for smooth skin without hair? It turns out that the Romans are to blame for everything. Among the ruins of the city of Wroxeter in Shropshire, more than 50 tweezers were found, and this place was not just somehow inhabited, it was one of the largest settlements in Roman Britain. Imagine, this city was as huge as Pompeii. It turns out that the Romans were just obsessed with the idea of plucking body hair, and this fashion affected not only the eyebrows but the whole body, including the armpits. Yes, that's right guys, the Romans wanted to be clean and smooth, and this is just the beginning. They had a personal grooming kit that included tweezers, a skin scraper, an ear scoop, and a nail cleaner. For the sake of beauty, they were ready for anything. Interestingly, these tweezers were used not only to remove body hair but also to shave faces in order to look more civilized and follow the fashion in Rome. And of course, all this was done by slaves who often did all the dirty work. More than 400 of these amazing items, including tweezers, are on display at the museum in Shropshire, so any of you can get an idea of what lifestyle and personal care was like in Roman Britain. So do not think that hair removal is a modern fashion. It started back in ancient Rome. Maya and extraterrestrial civilizations. How to explain the presence of artifacts depicting spaceships, a calendar that is valid to this day, and absolutely smooth crystal skulls. And all this in a civilization about which official history says otherwise. The secret may be in extraterrestrial visitors. Yes, you heard me right. One of the Mayan gods, Kukulkan, whom the Aztecs knew as Quetzalcoatl, could supposedly be an alien from another planet. He taught the Maya such complex sciences as agriculture, mathematics, medicine, and astronomy, and the Maya knew about the planets which were discovered only a few centuries later. In the 30s of the last century in Guatemala, scientists discovered a sandstone head, which is now impossible to study since it was used as a target during military operations. But it brings even more intrigue to our story as its facial features are not at all like the Maya and other people in that area. But did you know that many of the Mayan books burned according to legend actually ended up in the Vatican? It was they who were used to create the Gregorian calendar, which is currently used throughout the world. All these facts only confirm that the Maya could communicate with an extraterrestrial civilization. The most mysterious find in Scotland. Let's get into the spirit of an unfathomable archaeological mystery that arose in 1836 in Scotland. See these 17 miniature wooden coffins? This is the most exciting mystery that worries scientists from all over the world, which the kids accidentally discovered while chasing rabbits on a hill in Edinburgh. Children playing in the forest stumble upon a strange cave where they found 17 tiny coffins with even tiny figures of people inside. On the one hand, it looks like some kind of magical ritual. On the other hand, the people of Edinburgh have an even more frightening idea of their origin. Could it be that these coffins are a secret trace of the sinister murders committed by the Irish Burke and Eyre in Edinburgh in 1827-1828? 16 murders, 17 coffins. But they say an extra coffin is a symbol of the first victim of the killers, whose body they sold to doctors, although he died of natural causes. All this is just a hypothesis, not confirmed by the facts, but what if? Maybe they really secretly made these coffins preparing for their atrocities. This theory still haunts researchers and mystery lovers. Maybe you can help unravel this mystery? Write your guesses in the comments below the video. Resurrected after 46,000 years. Imagine that you have been sleeping for 46,000 years. Waking up would be hard, right? But not for some worms. That is how long nematodes lay in the permafrost of Siberia, which scientists successfully awakened. These little creatures belong to the species Panagurolimus and Plactus and were found at a depth of 40 meters. With the help of radiocarbon dating, scientists have established that the worms fell asleep during the late Pleistocene period, that is, about 46,000 years ago. Experts removed samples from permafrost in the Kolyma region. According to Professor Timoras Kurchalia, lead author of the study, the worms were given food and water and woke up. They lived for about a month and during this time managed to give birth to more than 100 generations. This example may help us understand how species may have survived over time and perhaps even give us a chance to resurrect extinct species. Moreover, these nematodes deserve a place in the Guinness Book of Records because they slept longer than any other creatures known to us. And in order to learn a lot of new and interesting things from our history, I recommend that you subscribe to the channel and click on the bell to be the first to know about the release of new videos. Thanks for your views, bye everyone!